Happy Friday, my friends. It is March 29, 2024, and you know what it means. It is Sweet 16 Friday. We had a few great games yesterday. We're going to run it back today with a few more winners on the channel. This is the Free 3. What's up, guys? It's your boy Noble. Let me back with another DYF Bets video where I'm breaking down my favorite picks and plays of the day as we just try to get to the bag together and make some money. Last night, 2-2 day. We literally split our sports. We hit all our baseball bets. We lost all our basketball bets. Hate when that happens. Orioles first 5 run line to give you guys the other day. No sweat bet there. We got it done pretty early. Patrick Sandoval, like I said, he was going to fold. We did. We also cashed in on Nerfy. 6 quick outs. We got it done, baby. No sweat there. So we got our baseball picks down. But our basketball picks, oh my goodness. UNC, they blew that game. I was literally watching that game. A minute left. 15 seconds left on the shot clock. And you don't get the ball back to RJ Davis, but you shoot a three-pointer, and then you give up the foul on the end, one on the other side of the floor. Oh my goodness, we lose on the cover, we lose outright. And then Iowa State, I have to give Illinois credit. They had a great offensive game. Like I mentioned, Terrence Shannon was going to have to be able to hoop. He did. Iowa State, the door was open because Illinois was missing a ton of free throws. They just couldn't get it done. Missed too many bunnies at the rim. So guess what? You lose. 2-2 on the day. Hate to see that, but I've got a few Sweet 16 games today, and I'm going to run it back because I like the way that we've been hitting on college basketball this year. You can look at our record. 96 and 76 in college basketball this year, so we've been killing it. Month of March was still 7 games over 500, and we started off the baseball season the way we wanted to. You can see we added that category right here so we can start tracking our baseball plays. So if you've been making money with us, if you're here for the long run, if you're here for the marathon and not the sprint, make sure you smash that subscribe button and like this video as well so we can continue to grow the channel, continue to share our winners with more people who are looking to find best bets every day. And if you're ready for my Sweet 16 matchups, let's get into it. For my first best bet of the day, you probably know where I'm headed, but I'm headed to the game that everyone's talking about. The Houston Cougars, the number 1 seed, headed to take on Duke, the number 4 seed here. We have about a 3.5, 4-point spread, depending on what your book has it at. And truthfully, guys, I'm going to have to go with Houston. Minus 3.5, minus 125 odds. You know I'm going to buy that look there. And I have to go with the favorite again today. I know the favorites burned us yesterday. Well, I took the later games. They worked in the early games. But that's okay. I think this is a matchup that favors Houston in this matchup. And I'm going to rock with the Cougars here because I just think they're the better team. They've got the physicality. And when you have a game when you have a strong offense against a strong defense, those two typically tend to wash each other out. Then it comes down to what the other variables. We saw that yesterday in the Illinois-Iowa State game. The other variables was loose balls, free throw shooting, turnovers. And guess what? Iowa State lost all those battles. That's why they lost the game. Now, the Houston Cougars are going to be taking on the Duke Blue Devils, and this is the second best defense in the country in terms of adjusted efficiency. Meanwhile, the Duke Blue Devils have the 5th best offense in the country in terms of adjusted offensive efficiency. We know Duke loves to shoot a lot of three-pointers, and that works in their favor, but that is what Houston is trying to eliminate as well. They do not allow you to get up a lot of three-pointers, and that is why this Houston Cougars defense is as great as they are. Opponents are shooting less than 30% from the three-point line, and that's a little bit concerning for a Duke team that not only shoots a ton of threes, but also hits 38% from the three-point line for the season. So they really depend heavily on their offense to hit threes. We saw that in their last matchup against James Madison, where they absolutely wowed James Madison 93-55, but that was due to because of their three-point shooting. I mean, listen, when you've got Jared McCain hitting 8 3-pointers on only 11 attempts, it's going to be very hard to beat this team, but I just don't think that's going to happen against this Houston defense. And then when you also look at the numbers that Duke has been shooting from the field, from the three-point line thus far in the tournament, they are bound for a little bit of regression. And when you keep in mind the two opponents that they played, Vermont and James Madison, not to say that neither of those teams are kind of stellar defensively, they're definitely not Houston. And when I look at that Vermont team, that game kind of reminds me very similar to what Houston's kind of going to be able to do, but with just much better athletes and players. Vermont slowed down the pace of the game. Duke only scored 64 points in that game. They had a 61st ranked defense, and they also took away the three-point line, and they're very good at guarding the two-point line as well. That is very similar to what Houston does. But Houston's literally Vermont on steroids, like the Monstars versions of Vermont. What Vermont did decent, Houston's going to do much better. As well as Houston guards the three-point line, the Cougars are holding opponents to 43% shooting from the two-point range. I think it's also going to be their benefit, considering the fact that Duke likes to play a lot of isolation ball, a lot of one-on-one ball. So if Roach is not able to gain separation, Filipowski, I mean, he's going to get his, but I like the fact that Houston's big man can be able to hold it down and on the inside. And we saw in their last match against Texas A&M when 4 starters fouled out that this Houston bench is deep enough. They've got experience enough to be able to hold the fort down. And I think this is just too much of a veteran-led team with Jamal Shedd, with some of the other members that they have there. Calvin Sampson, 5th straight, 16 in a row. They've been in this situation before. I think the veteran leadership here in what's going to be a muddy game and a low total is going to allow us to be able to get over this 3.5-point spread. A little bit different than Alabama and UNC because you're hoping for a shootout and you're hoping UNC gets a stop, which they didn't. For me, we know Houston's going to get a stop. The question is, can their offense keep up? And I think they understand that they're not going to be able to drop 70, 80 points on this Duke team like they did with Texas A&M because the defenses are a little bit different. And I think that Houston is going to slow this game down. They're going to try to keep it in the half court, take away the three-point line for Duke. And when Duke is not being able to hit three-pointers, that is when they struggle. When they're playing teams that are physical with them, that's when they lose. Look at some of their losses this year. They lost to NC State, a physical team. They lost to North Carolina twice, a physical team. They lost to Arkansas, another physical team. Again, Houston, those teams are babies compared to how Houston's physicality is. And as long as the reps are keeping the whistles in their mouths paused, they now have the ability to play physical, maybe limit the amount of fouls instead of what they did against Texas A&M. I think the advantage here is with Houston. So give me them -3.5 as our first best bet of the day. For my second best bet of the day, we're going to go with a player prop on the college basketball side. I know we got some people here who do daily fantasy. They do player props on Prize Picks, Underdogs, and maybe you guys want a player prop in the college basketball slate. And I think this is an angle that I really like based on the number that we're getting it at. And I didn't mention that in the Duke Houston breakdown. I think because of the overtime win for Houston and how Duke has been blowing out opponents, we're also getting value on that line at 3.5. Because if Houston blew out every opponent they played like Duke did, or if Duke was in closer games, that's easily a 5-6 point spread. So I think we get some value on there. But speaking about value, that's why I like Dalton Connect today. Over 20.5 points, -135 odds. Now, if your book has it at 21.5, I'm not opposed to that. I think it is a little bit juice at 135, but I'm willing to pay it. Why? Because Dalton Connect is the guy for Tennessee. Tennessee has absolutely no offense, okay? Their offense is god-awful. We saw that in that last game against Texas. It's strictly by the grace of God that they were able to get past that Texas team. And it's really because of their defense, let's be honest. They won that game 62-58. Dalton Connect had a terrible shooting game. 5 of 18 from the field, 1 of 8 from the three-point line. Not to mention Ziegler, the other senior guard there for Tennessee, 2 of 12 from the field, another 1 of 8 from the three-point line. Adu, 4 of 12, James, 4 of 8. So when you look at the shot volume here, it's like Tennessee, if they're going to win these games, yes, they have a strong defense that's going to keep these games low scoring, but you need Dalton Connect to score points. He is their offense. He is the guy that they lean on to be able to get buckets for them, and they've been leaning on him. On the season, he's averaging 21.1 points per game on 30 minutes playing, on 46% shooting from the field. He gets to the free throw line at a good rate, shooting 76% from the free throw line, hits three-pointers at a decent rate at over 40%. He's given up over 15 shot attempts per game to go with 6 three-pointers. So the volume is going to be there for Dalton Connect. The question is he going to be able to hit shots? And I like the fact that they are playing a Creighton team that is weaker defensively and so offensively focused. Now, Tennessee's defense will be able to slow down Creighton a bit. The emphasis is on a bit, but Creighton's still going to be able to drop 65, 70 points easily in this game. If Texas could drop 58, this Creighton offense that is top 10 in college basketball in terms of points per game is easily going to be able to get 70 points up here. And the question is, can Tennessee's defense keep them in the game, and can they hit enough shots? And if they're going to hit enough shots, they need Dalton Connect to do what he does. We saw what he did in the first round in the mid-regional against St. Peter's. He had 23 points in that game. We saw what he did against Kentucky, a team that's focused on offense and not really defense, similar to Creighton. He had 40 points in the SEC tournament in that matchup. So we've seen games where he's been able to get off, but it's been primarily against the weaker defensive teams, and that's what I like. And this is a guy who's had 39 points in the game this season. Twice, actually, against Florida, against Auburn. He's at 36 before. He's at 28. He's at 32. So we've seen him be able to fly over this total. He's averaging over this total. And if Tennessee's going to be competitive, he needs to be able to score. Only 18 points in his last game out. I'm expecting a bounce-back performance, but the volume was there. And I'm expecting the later we get into the tournament, the more the stars are going to shine, the more the ball is going to be in the hand, and more is demanded out there. So Dalton Connect, you love your team this far. If Tennessee's supposed to pick up the win today, which I don't know, I have them on upsell alert. then we need to see you shoot the ball. So give me over 20.5 points as our second best bet of the day. Now, our third and final best bet of the day, we are going to go with a cross-sport par here. Give you a little two-team steam. I'm not going to lie, there's going to be a favorite that loses today in the college basketball slate. I'm not 100% who it is. I think it might be Marquette, so I'm not going to bet on Marquette because we have our future pending on Marquette. If you tapped into the show about a week ago when the tournament started, I gave you guys two futures. One for Purdue to win the national title at plus 700. And I also told you to take Marquette to make the Final Four, and we took that after Kentucky lost at plus 550. So we got both of those props pending. So I'm not really going to bet Marquette today because we got action on them. But maybe taking NC State plus the points because they are maybe the team of destiny right now. If you want to hear a little bit more about how I broke down each Sweet 16 game, click the link in the description, come join, or watch the stream that I did with Sean Clark where we talk about that a little bit more. But the cross-sport part that I'm going to do in the favorite that I am going to back in tonight's slate, besides the Houston Cougars, is the Purdue Boilermakers, because like I said, I got on my ticket to go all the way to national championship, and I don't think they lose today. And I'm going to take the Arizona Diamondbacks. Put those two together, you get plus 105 odds. Two pretty big favorites at minus 200 odds or better, but I like both of these teams to get it done today. So let's break down Purdue first. The Boilermakers are taking on the Gonzaga Bulldogs, and this is going to be a great matchup for the Zags here, as I think they have a strong enough offense to keep this competitive and even cover that 5.5 point spread. I think this is going to be a very high scoring game. Ken Palm has this as an 82-77 final in favor of Purdue, which I do agree with, as I do think that Purdue is the better team. I do think that they're the best team in the country right now and the only team that can compete with UConn, if we're being all the way honest. And I think that would be an amazing national championship game. Even though it's just one seed, I wouldn't be mad to see Edey versus Carl Brenner kind of matchup, face down, Painter versus Hurley coaching battle. I think that would be great. Now, this Purdue team is shooting the three-point ball at an amazing rate, actually second best in all of college basketball right now. And that offense is third in offensive efficiency, 13th in defensive field goal percentage. We know what runs with this offense. Let's feed the ball to Edey. If you crash down on him, then we got Fletcher Loyer ready to shoot. We got Braden Smith dishing and diming. We got Lance Jones slashing, picking up guys full court. And for me, that is why Purdue has the advantage here, because they have the defenders that are willing to get things scrappy on the perimeter with the Gonzaga Bulldog guards. We know the guards are a big focal point for Gonzaga with Nembhard and Watson, but we have to also keep in mind Graham Ike is their big man. Everything runs through him, the 6'9 junior. But if he picks up foul trouble early guarding Edey, which we've seen with every single team thus far in the tournament, and it's really hard to argue that Edey is not getting fouled. You get what I'm saying? It's what do you do? Because there's some times where he's clearly getting hit and they don't call it. And there are other times I'm like, that's a little questionable. But regardless, his presence, his size is going to get teams in foul trouble. It's going to get people to the free throw line. The question is if Purdue's hitting the free throws and if they're also hitting the kick out threes and playing, off of that. Now, Gonzaga, like I said, they have the offense to keep with Purdue's offense. Gonzaga has the seventh best offense in college basketball, 6th in effective field goal percentage, one of the best 2-point offenses in all college basketball. But if they get in foul trouble, if Watson picks up fouls early, Ike picks up fouls early, Brandon Huff picks up fouls early, this gets out of control fast. Then it becomes a game where they're going to have to play from behind in terms of shooting a lot of threes and kind of speeding up the pace. And I just don't know if that really fits them. And I don't know if that's really going to be what Purdue is going to be looking to do, because we know Purdue is going to look to slow it down in the half court. So this way they can run their sets with Edey. So I'm not overthinking it here. Gonzaga is good enough to cover this spread. I know some people have them in the Final Four, but I got to rock with Purdue here. We've seen the best teams in the tournament so far handle business like UConn did, and I think the similar thing is going to happen today. A little bit of a closer game considering how the Zags can score the ball, but Purdue should handle business. Now, the D-backs are taking on the Colorado Rockies in their second game of the series here. And if you watched that game yesterday, then you can know why I'm probably on the D-backs today. The Rockies lost that game 16-1. That's right. They gave up a franchise record, I think 14 runs or something like that in one inning. It was absolutely crazy. That game was out of control before it even started. Now, obviously, when you score so many runs in one game, it's probably due for a letdown spot in the next game. I'm not opposed to that, but I like who the D-backs have on the mound here in this matchup. They've got Merrill Kelly on the mound, and he's taking on Cal Quantrill. And Merrill Kelly had a very strong campaign last season, especially in the playoffs. He went 12-8 on the year with a 3.29 ERA, which was the 11th best ERA in the majors, to go with 180 strikeouts, which is top 25 in baseball as well. So great form, a great number 2 guy to kind of follow behind Zach Gallen, who's kind of the ace of that staff. While Cal Quantrill, he has not really been that good. He's been inconsistent dating back to his times with the Guardians. He got traded to this Rockies team last season. Because since he joined the Rockies, he didn't do too good. Last season, he finished off the year with a 4.7 ERA, 5.24 ERA. He also struggled in spring training as well, which is a point of concern. I'm just going to go with the D-backs here. This is a team that made it all the way to the World Series last year, so I don't think we're going to get the same value on them from a price perspective as we did last year. But when you get opportunities to fade a bad team like the Colorado Rockies, then I'm going to take advantage of it. And I think that right now with the pitching matchup, it favors them, and I like the two-team steam here. So give me the D-backs on the money line, parlay that Purdue on the money line. That should get us to plus 100 odds. Well, that's it for me today, my friends. 3 best bets, 3 winners that are headed your way, and a mix of the college basketball and the MLB slate. 1, we are taking at Houston to win on the spread minus 3.5. We're also going to take Dalton Connect to get over 20.5 points, and then we're going to go with the two-team Steve with Purdue on the money line, and then also parlaying that with the D-backs on the money line. For more picks and plays I've dropped throughout the day, click the link in the description. Depending on when you listen to this, my nerf view of the day probably might have already gone. But if you do want it, I put it already in the Discord chat. That's why you need to join, so this way you can get those picks early. But if you want it, it is the Philadelphia Phillies versus the Atlanta Braves. Spencer Strider versus Zach Wheeler. That is about a 3 o'clock first pitch, so you might not be able to get it in enough time. But if you do, then feel free to grab that. I got it at minus 125 odds as our nerf fee of the day. All right, my friends, I'll see you inside the Discord group. Can't wait to sweat out some bets with you tonight. And as always, dictate your fate, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Later, gang.